for a reason, and I didn't even know at the time, but they're making more and more sense to me every day. Faith, our faith, your faith must be restored. Without a strong sense of right and wrong that comes from God, we will spiral quickly. They're already legalizing drugs in California like they did in Weimar. Are you telling me that our society is getting better? 2, hope. Not false hope, the truth. And the truth is you can make it. Things will get better. You don't need 2 years down the road Section 8 housing. You can succeed. And 3, charity. Not from the government, but through ourselves, our neighbors, our churches, our synagogues. We need to pick each other up and be prepared to support one another. That's what Americans do best. We must have our hearts filled with faith, hope, and charity. When I talked on my radio program a few years ago, before the collapse even began, and I talked about the economy before the big crash, I was mocked by almost everybody in my listening audience and the press. I remember being openly laughed at for warning about a possible Great Depression. A couple of years goes by, and our president is using similar language, both Bush and Obama. You and I were both called racist and drama queens for calling Obama a Marxist socialist who wants to fundamentally transform our country. As Harry Reid would say, need I say more on that one? In January, I told you that the race card would be used right around the elections because that's all they had left. The reason why I bring these things up is I just want to remind you I have a decent track record. I'm not right all the time, but I have a decent track record. May I now ask you to disregard those who will likely mock the thing I'm telling you tonight, that America is repeating the mistakes of the Weimar Republic. I tell you this not because I expect it to change, but I expect you to do something to prepare yourself. I touched on the Weimar Cabaret last segment. It was the epitome of moral decline in Germany. It rotted their society, and the average citizen was seduced into despair, hopelessness, and ignorant bliss. I know I'm going to be criticized for this comparison, but it is the same story throughout all of history, and someone has to point it out. When man tries to rely on himself or the government as a beacon of hope, morality, we always fall short every single time. We cannot make it alone, and left to our own devices, there's trouble. Being good for the sake of just being good is a losing formula. History proves it throughout all time. If we as Americans can still think out of the box, and we want a different result than every previous civilization that we are following in their path, we must try something different, and we better try it soon. Right now, we are repeating the same mistakes. The mistake that distancing ourselves from God is okay. I was on with Bill O'Reilly last night. We had an interesting exchange, and I want you to see if you notice something. We have got to get back to our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, whatever it is, as long as it's not telling you to blow things up. Get back to God and get to the back to the founding principles. I don't know if
that's going to happen. I mean, it's a noble thing you're trying to do because spirituality is a good thing.
You can argue about abortion or gay marriage or whatever, all you want.
Yeah.
The country is burning down. I personally
But isn't that
think
one of the reasons, because we're getting away from the traditional way we used to live into this progressive
So let's go back to the instead of arguing about these divisive things, let's get back into our churches and our synagogues. And
you're not going to get people going back unless there's a reason to go back.
This is the reason, America. The events haven't happened yet, but they don't have to. The country is on fire. We must turn around. We must look to God again. If we try the same solutions that past civilizations have tried, guess what? We're going to have the same result, and it is failure. These problems are too big for us to handle. We're causing them by our own unwillingness to regulate ourselves. We must turn back to the values and the principles that made this nation great in the first place. Trust in the individual. Trust in the individual, trust in personal responsibility, thrift, honesty. And whether or not you want to admit it or not, we must get back to God. We must get back to faith. We need to get back on our knees and pray. There's a phrase on our money, and I wonder if we've just said it so many times we don't even notice it anymore. In God we trust. It's there on the money. Is it still true to you? It is to me, and I know with everything in me, this is the way out. Now is the time. Everything has to start with you, the individual. That's what this life is all about, individual choices. Get the demons out of your life. Get the lies, get all of this crap out of our lives. The only way this ship is going to turn around is if you turn around. This is what 828 is all about. Restoring honor. I'm going to show you some people that are full of honor, that will inspire you, inspire your children. America began with men and women of honor who risked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They risked it all. And look what they created. I know you. You are not going to sit by or be a part of people that are just throwing it all away, because it's not about you. It's not even about our children. I don't know what God has in store for man's freedom. But I have to tell you something. Eternal ramifications if we're the generation that loses it. We've made mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. Move on. Turn back around. Start living your life the right way. I was going to say, I hope that you will show up on 828 at the feet of Abraham Lincoln. But I know you again. And I know you can feel it in your bones. Something is happening. And it's good. So I have faith that you will be there in Washington, D.C., August 28th, 2 weeks from Saturday. See you then.
Names are Buffy and Jody Davis.
Buffy? That's a very odd
remember
name,
this?
Mr. Davis.
My name is Mr. French.
Mr. French. I love Mr. French. It's a show when I was a kid called Family Affair. And it comes from a time, I mean, look, this comes from the 60s. Things were screwed up. Things were bad in the 60s. But at least it seemed that where there was, I mean, there's one show, and there were a lot like this, where they were striving to show that there is something better. There was at least some illusion that life was okay someplace. If people are still asking themselves, what happened? How did we possibly get here? It's simple. I told you back in April, progressives are trying to do 3 things. They wanted to transform America, so they had to do 3 things. And tell me if they've accomplished them. 1, undermine faith in religion, then undermine the Constitution. And the last one was, we had such an attachment to our founding fathers because we knew who these people were. Okay, so they were undermine religion, undermine the Constitution, and undermine the founding fathers, even erase them from our textbooks. So how's that plan progressing? Any evidence that it is? The war on religion has been going on for a while. This is actually, I haven't read this yet. This is from Josiah Strong, Reverend Josiah Strong, 1888. This is some of the beginnings of the social justice movement. And the attack on religion has been unrelenting, and it is only getting much, much worse. Now, I want to play something for you, and it's not because it's attacking me, but the way they are purposely perverting the gospel. Listen to this.
Would you support a leader who said Jesus' teachings can lead to Nazism? Or who attacks Christian pastors for preaching the full gospel? Then why do so many Christians tune in to Glenn Beck? By deriding pastors who preach the justice taught by Jesus and the prophets, Glenn Beck has urged listeners to follow his piecemeal gospel.
I have news for this organization. You wait. Make sure you're watching on 828. Oh, you watch. I have never urged you to follow my piecemeal gospel. Never. I've urged you to question with boldness and find out the truth for yourself through prayer, reading of good books, scriptures, you name it. If you're reading the scriptures, show me the phrase social justice anywhere in the Bible. Could you do that? Show me where Jesus puts the responsibility on the backs of the government to care for the poor. Show it to me. By the way, show me a single reference to Jesus on Faithful America's website. This is the organization.